Hello, everyone. I should be streaming. I only announced this stream. Uh, I only announced this stream a couple of minutes ago. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I know you won't be seeing me right now. I'm not turning, I haven't turned my camera on. Daniel Rodriguez, how does he keep doing it? He must be stopped. Also, first, yeah, I know. I impress myself sometimes. I find that on this channel, I'm often the first one to comment. It's just luck, I guess. Um, yeah, so hello and welcome. Uh, I posted something a little earlier. Let me just go up here. Okay, I stated, for instance, this was the question I asked: does the SSPX come under the anathema of the Council of Trent? Now, just as I have critiqued Islam, just as I have critiqued Protestantism, and just as I have discussed Catholicism, um, well, I've critiqued all of these, but I'm very disappointed in how Catholics are so divided, are so poorly catechized, have such a poor understanding of the history of the church, and are pulled in all directions with all sorts of erroneous opinions that go completely against the magisterium, that goes completely against the the catechism of the church, that goes completely against the papacy, and yet they call themselves Catholics. For me, this is very disappointing. Right, so the question is, does the SSPX come under the anathema of the Council of Trent? Right, the answer is yes. Just so you know, short version, spoiler. Right, now I have done a little bit of looking at the SSPX, and they do seem to have a fair amount of dirty laundry. Welcome, Dr. Jonathan Gemmell, you were second, well done. It's what time in New Zealand? Oh my golly, 3:45. Yeah, I have a stream in 2 hours with Francis Boole, Dino Dennis, Roseanne, Daniel, welcome, Tom, Gyoka, welcome. So, so yeah, guys, I do realize that I am one channel on YouTube that seems to upset his audience because I upset Muslims by talking very accurately, very carefully with highly sourced material on Islam, on Protestantism, on Martin Luther, on John Calvin. And when I quote the magisterium, when I quote the popes, it upsets Catholics no end. Now, am I supposed to quote my favorite priest? Should I quote random Catholic on YouTube chat section? Or am I supposed to quote the magisterium of the Catholic Church? Am I supposed to quote the absolute authorities of the Catholic Church? I believe that the absolute authorities of the Catholic Church carry more weight than some random guy in the comment section or some random priest that someone happens to like. Roseanne, welcome. So now the SSPX has dirty laundry. Going through all of that is a discussion for another time. SSPX is the Society of Pius X. Let's actually just bring that up. So it's the Society of Saint Pius X, right? It was started in 1970 by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, right? It basically undermines and goes against the Catholic Church, right? Now, there's a couple of things I just want to discuss. As I said, I'm the one channel on YouTube that upsets all of these followers and listeners, and yeah, I just go around annoying people with what I discuss. Right, so in response to various nonsense comments, because people were giving me nonsense comments, I just did a bit of work. So the SSPX comes under the anathema of the Council of Trent. Now, everyone says, like, after 1962, the Catholic Church became satanic. It became overrun by Freemasons. The Pope was replaced with a satanic dwarf. And not only that, but they started teaching heresy. They altered the Mass to actually send souls straight to hell. And you pick your favorite conspiracy theory and you run with that, right? Now, the Council of Trent, I checked, is at least 10 minutes before 1962 or Vatican II. Take your starting point. And at least maybe 15 minutes even before Vatican II. So therefore it has more validity, because I'm always told, no, Lloyd, anything after 1962 is evil. Well, I guess the Council of Trent is not evil because it's in the 1600s. Could be good. Yes, the SSPX is schismatic. Thank you, KK all day. Thank you very much for subscribing. So So the Council of Trent in its 22nd session addressed the topic of the Eucharist and the Mass in Canon 7. And what's important here, it says that anyone that says that the Mass, right, is an incentive to impiety rather than offices of piety, let him be anathema. Now, the canon condemns the view that the ceremonies, the vestments, and the outward signs used in the Catholic Mass are incentives to impiety. Why is this important? Because everyone says, no, no, no. Anything post-Vatican II is rubbish and satanic and Freemasonic and evil. And anything before that, like, you got to go back to the Council of Trent, that's just fine. Well, Bishop Lefebvre said that basically the Catholic Mass is an incentive to impiety. It will lead you to hell. And he was the one to follow. He was the way, the truth, and the life, or whatever. Follow me, Bishop Lefebvre. Now, the SSPX has claimed that the Reformed liturgy, right, following the Second Vatican Council, has elements that are dangerous for the faith. Now, whether these are dangerous for the faith or not, this is not an interest. Yes, Dr. Jonathan Gemmell, the SSPX is not in communion with Rome. They may not be explicitly in schism, but they are not in communion. We'll discuss that. So this position seems to align with the view condemned by the Council of Trent in Canon 7, right? Furthermore, the Council of Trent in its 25th session, right, declared that the authority of the Apostolic See, the Pope, is untouched by the decrees of the Council regarding reformation of morals and ecclesiastical discipline. So the SSPX's rejection of the liturgical reforms approved by the Apostolic See would also fall under the Council's anathema. Furthermore, the giving bishops status, putting them into position, can only come from the Catholic See, can only come from the magisterium. So the fact that the SSPX put bishops into position without the authority which of the Catholic See disconnected them from the lineage of the church, disconnected them from the lineage of the apostles, and therefore they did not have correct mission, I believe the term is. So this is something I can go to in more depth, but this means that they do not have authority. They lack authority, they lack connection. Effectively, this makes them schismatic, and it makes them Protestants for all intents and purposes, right? So, yes, I'm going to get to all of that. So these are some of the references. Council of Trent, here I've got these references. These are on my community page. You can check that, okay? So let me go into a couple of, so there's a few things I can discuss here. So while the excommunication, so Pius XII considered, Pius XII considered bishops appointed without the mandate of the Apostolic See as lacking legitimate jurisdiction, and their sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious. This is the very thing that Lefebvre and his followers did. Okay? So, now, the simple fact is that now you've got Pius XII. Now, Pius XII is from, this is a quote from, 1860s? So this is a little bit before, at least 15 minutes before Vatican II. And he said that bishops appointed without the mandate of the Apostolic See lack legitimate jurisdiction, and their sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious. Therefore, this is the very thing Lefebvre did. Therefore, what he did is illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious, according to a pope that came well before. Now, the question is, do I listen to a bunch of random Catholics who seem to know absolutely jack about the magisterium and the catechism and canon law, or do I listen to the Pope? Do I listen to the magisterium? Now, of course, here's where the Catholics are going to go, well, Lloyd, you need to listen to me, random Catholic, because the popes are satanic. The popes are evil. The popes are misguided. And Marcel Lefebvre said it, and I believe him. And anything after Vatican II is heretical, except this is Pope Pius XII from 1865. Is he also a heretic? Do you also outrank him? So, yeah. Now, just on this point, now, one thing, Catholics use a language that nobody speaks. You'll go, well, do you know, in Trimium Omnium Paracelsium Titaniamnic, 73, there was a decretal that was Anabaptistic for the Legomemnonic Anabaptalaga. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, seriously, just speak English. Can we all just try to speak a little bit of regular English that humans can understand? Because, honestly, now, So, the Society of Pius X does not have a canonical status in the Catholic Church, as stated in the letter of Pope Benedict XVI. The Society has no canonical status in the Church, and its ministers, even though they have been freed of the ecclesiastical penalty, do not exercise any ministry in the Church. They have no legitimate power to exercise any ministry in the Church. So, in other words, the Pope was lenient. As a matter of charity, he lifted the excommunication, right? He invited them back. And of course, one of the first things that I think Bishop Williamson did was to go and be anti-Semitic on television and start to talk about how much he hates the Jews, right? Which is Lefebvre's position, which was Martin Luther's position. So there is a certain parallel between Bishop Lefebvre, the SSPX, and the followers of Bishop Lefebvre, the other bishops that came afterwards, and their hatred of Jews. So that's definitely like Martin Luther there. So while the excommunication of the SSPX bishops has been lifted, the doctrinal differences between the SSPX and the Church have not been resolved. As Pope Benedict XVI states, until the doctrinal questions are clarified, the Society has no canonical status in the Church. So therefore, no, they are not in communion with the Holy See. They are not of any status within the Church. Understand? So people who tell me this, you're wrong, bluntly. When a difficult... Now, here's the thing. What is odd? I'm going to go into some comments that I've been receiving lately as well. Okay? When a difficult judgment is required and a related judgment comes easily to mind, the easy judgment is used instead, right? So we are typically unaware of this heuristic. So if we are asked a complicated question, we answer a simpler question that is easier than the one we were asked. This is commonly termed a deflection. So in situations where individuals are confronted with undeniable evidence that challenges a deeply held belief or a cherished notion, they may resort to deflecting tactics when engaging in discussions. They prefer to rely on simpler, easier judgments rather than addressing the complexity of the evidence presented. All right? And instead of engaging with the challenging information that threatens their sacred cow, they divert the conversation by introducing off-topic arguments, irrelevant points, or using sophistry to avoid confronting this very uncomfortable reality. So this pattern of deflecting rather than addressing the core issues, right, is to maintain their cognitive comfort zones and avoid the discomfort of having cherished beliefs called into question. And I go around a lot shooting people's sacred cows in the head. Okay? So now, based on the Catholic Church's teachings provided in this reference, right, that I have here, and I've got plenty of them, I can throw them all at you if you like, right? Any Catholic who rejects the words of the Pope and the Magisterium are in a serious state. The Catechism of the Church states that when the Church's Supreme Magisterium proposes a doctrine for belief as being divinely revealed, the faithful must adhere to it with the obedience of faith. Now, this is where I have gone through permutations of this in the past. This is not my first rodeo on this. Someone will say, well, actually, the Catechism doesn't apply to me. The Catechism does not apply to me because it's a special circumstance. You see, because my circumstance, I'm involved with the quo vadis of the superior unctum, so therefore I am not under the jurisdiction of the Catechism, whereas under the circumstance you provided was actually the quo vadis of the inferior unctum. So, first of all, I have no idea what Catholics are saying. You may as well be speaking frickin' Martian. Okay, so no wonder no one understands what the hell's going on in Catholicism. Okay, and English, just try English so we can all try and understand you. But the simple fact is, I have asked these questions, I have researched these questions about Catholics who deny the Pope, deny the Magisterium, deny the canon law, and who deny the Catechism. You are out of bounds. You are wrong. If I have to choose, if anyone has to choose between the Catechism and some lay Catholic's opinion, you are wrong. Flat out. You are not even in the reckoning, right? So the document says so. The faithful must adhere to it with the obedience of faith. Catholics are obliged to accept and believe the teachings of the Pope and bishops when they definitively proclaim a doctrine of faith or morals. And I am constantly seeing Catholics going, no, 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 no. I've had Catholics lie to me, to my face, lie to me, call me a liar, and smear me for showing, after taking pains to very carefully and diligently research what is the magisterial position, what is the papal position, and tell me that I lied to them. Tell me those are my references that I invented. So this is, yeah, Catholics don't like to be confronted with Catholic doctrine, and I get called a liar. So the document in defense of the Catholic doctrine of the Church explains that the magisterium's teaching office is not merely ratifying the beliefs of the faithful, but can anticipate or demand their assent in interpreting and explaining divine revelation. The faithful must accept the magisterium's teaching with an assent proportionate to the authority that they possess, right? The Code of Canon Law states that the Pope possesses infallibility when he proclaims by a definitive act a doctrine of faith or morals. Now they'll go, but Lloyd, you're speaking about faith and morals, not about the particular circumstance. Remember, we're discussing the doctrine of the Vaticanus Ordinanum Copium Irregularis, you see, and so therefore it's a different context, and therefore I don't have to be obedient to the Pope in this case. It's like, no, you're wrong. You're just making up stuff to make yourself feel better. Okay. Now, just briefly on the point of the Latin Mass, like, no, De Novus Ordo was created in a Nazi laboratory. It was actually grown in a serum made of baby's blood and Dracula's semen. And therefore, it is a product of the devil produced in a Nazi laboratory and unleashed upon the world in 1962 after it was grown in a vat for 17 years. Like, okay, fine, if you say so. Right? No. If this is the church that Jesus created and it will prevail against evil and you are a member of that church, you need to actually listen to the church. Now, if you have a problem, fine. But when someone is schismatic and moves out of the church, and according to these popes and the actual doctrine of the church, he is schismatic, he's outside the church. When you join him, you're a Protestant, just like that guy. You're no longer a Catholic, right? Pope Benedict XVI did not lift the well, yeah, look, I mean, okay, so according to this, the excommunication was lifted, but there are conditions, and they have not met those conditions, and they have no legitimate status within the Catholic Church, right? So, and the SSPX has not fulfilled that. So anyway, so now, this is not just to discuss this topic. Now, I got some information on the fact that the canon law, the catechism, the papal decrees, the magisterial decrees are valid. Catholics must submit to those. Now, the context here might be one thing. Now, I have checked this in the past because I've had Catholics tell me that under this condition, they're not liable to listen to the Pope. Under that condition, the canon law doesn't apply to them. Under this condition, the catechism has no relevance to them. The catechism is just an opinion. I have checked all of these circumstances. It always comes down to, you're a lay Catholic, shut the hell up. Here's the catechism, follow that, right? So a Catholic who rejects the words of the Pope and magisterium on matters of faith and morals would be rejecting the Church's divinely instituted teaching authority. This constitutes a grave violation of the obedience of faith required of the faithful. You are in danger of separating yourselves from the communion of the church. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of references here. You can see there's a whole bunch of references that I've gone through. And the Catechism of the Catholic Church and the pronouncements of the Pope are highly authoritative and binding for lay Catholics. The Catechism is an authoritative reference. According to Pope John Paul II, the Catechism of the Catholic Church is a statement of the Church's faith and Catholic doctrine, attested to or illumined by sacred scripture, apostolic tradition, and the Church's magisterium. Right? It's a norm for the teaching of the faith. Too many Catholics are telling me, well, I don't have to listen to the magisterium, I don't have to listen to the catechism. Actually, my opinion is, I don't care about your opinion, you're wrong, finished, done. Catechism for Renewal in Unity, Pope John Paul II. Now, Bishop Lefebvre said, of course, that Pope John Paul II is satanic, which, as you know, is very Catholic. That's what Catholics have to do. You have to declare the Pope to be satanic. You have to claim that the Novus Ordo was grown in a lab from, I don't know, was scraped out of Hitler's sternum posterior and mixed with I don't know, like with rat poison, and there you go. Right? That's what you're supposed to do if you're Catholic. So it states that the Catechism is meant to serve the renewal to which the Holy Spirit ceaselessly calls the Church of God, and to support ecumenical efforts that are moved by the holy desire for the unity of all Christians. Right. And the Catechism is offered to all the faithful who wish to deepen their knowledge, except, of course, anyone who disagrees with me because they know better. Right? So if the Novus Ordo is compromised, well, and yeah. So yeah, if that is, and if that happens, then the gates of hell has prevailed against the church, and apparently everyone is to follow Bishop Lefebvre or one of the 3,004,000,000 other. Your personal opinion is not binding. That's exactly the case. Your personal opinion is not binding. Right? Papal authority and guidance, right? The catechism keeps intact its full authoritativeness and importance, is a vehicle for education of faith in the church. You get the point, okay? You have a duty to adhere to church teaching, right? This includes the teachings found in the catechism. So there you get the idea. So now, as I said, Pope Pius XII said that what Lefebvre did basically is he lacks legitimate jurisdiction, and his sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious. Now, there are Catholics who are anonymous, who have no names, who come on, and it's like, well, Lloyd, you need to know why Bishop Lefebvre did it. He did it because, why didn't you just justify what Hitler did? Because you'd have to know why he did it, and that would justify it. No, you are wrong. Simple. The Catholic magisterium has made its statement. The Pope has made his statement. Deal with it. Now, if you want to have one opinion and the next Catholic wants to have another opinion, that makes you Protestants. That makes you all subjectively deciding what church doctrine is for you. Okay? Now, for those of you who speak about the Tridentine Mass, just as a point, everyone goes, well, the Novus Ordo, is actually not the original Mass. Do you know that the Tridentine Latin Mass is the original Mass? Okay, so just can someone do me a favor? Can you make me a list of the Masses before the Latin Mass? Because let me do this as a typical Catholic. Do you know that the Tridentine Mass is an illegitimate Mass? The Tridentine Mass was actually grown in a vat in Martin Luther's tower toilet from fecal matter scraped from Martin Luther. And then it was done by a heretical pope who was actually eaten by a dwarf and replaced with a demon. And therefore, the Tridentine Mass, the Latin Mass, is actually not an original because it replaced a different Mass, because there were Masses before the TLM. So let's see, there were Masses before the TLM, so this makes the TLM illegitimate. Because applying the same logic that is applied to the Novus Ordo, this makes the TLM illegitimate. So in other words, you need to go back to the Greek Mass. So I hope you guys will all go back to the Greek Mass, and then we can stop talking about how anything that replaces anything is illegitimate and evil and from Satan. So if you guys can please give me a list of all the Masses that came before the Latin Mass. Give me a list and see if there's nothing, or if there actually were Masses before, and maybe you need to now start bitching and moaning about how the Latin Mass is an illegitimate, satanic, evil Mass by an evil, Freemasonic, satanic Pope. That would be really nice if someone could do that for me, because then we can finally get this issue out the way. So yeah, so if the church has no authority, Jeremiah says if the church has no authority to replace the TLM, then it has no authority to replace the Aramaic Mass with the Latin Mass. Exactly, and there was a Greek Mass, and there were other Masses. So yeah, so we have the Mossarab and the Dominican in my area too, all beautiful, exactly. So therefore the Latin Mass is clearly satanic, evil, and wrong because it came after, right? Am I applying this logic correctly, right? So yeah, so then, yeah, so the problem is that these radical Catholics believe the TLM is superior to the Novus Ordo Mass and not the same. And yeah, so there are all of these issues. Now this one was, the SSPX are in communion in Rome. No, they're not. Okay? He said, but from my understanding, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I said, no, I've mentioned these things to this guy. And he tells me, I'm not even Roman Catholic. Thank you for the clarification, right? And then I had some guy going, this is not even English. I can't understand a word he said. He's actually using English words. I have no idea what this person said. I'm seriously thinking, like, what does he mean? I mean, those are words. Okay, then of course we had a couple of idiots. Now I've deleted some of these comments because I mean, these are just genuinely stupid people. This person starts talking about the Mass and the vestments. I was not interested nor discussing the Mass and the vestments. And I said, look, this is a deflection. Okay. Now this person, this one is Coral V13 Honey 9. Let's have a look at them. Okay, I don't know what their name is, but yeah, that's who they are. Coral, whatever. Lloyd, you are twisting Trent for an agenda. You are very smooth. Thank you. I am. But we are on to you. Have a nice day. I know how uninformed Catholics are. This is why they are ripe for exploitation by people like you. I'm praying God will intervene. He probably wants God to hit me with a lightning strike. Now, I said, look, this is what my information is direct from the magisterium, right? And so I am twisting an agenda. Now, Coral V13 Honey 9, I have asked you multiple times to please provide the evidence that I am twisting Trent for an agenda, that I am misleading, lying to, or exploiting Catholics based on their ignorance. Please explain to me how me going to check exactly what the magisterium and the Pope say and then quoting it is lying and twisting Trent. Please explain that to me, or I am going to call you the liar that you are. You are a liar. Okay? And then I said, please prove me wrong. Show how I am twisting Trent. Okay? Abduls do this. Honestly, this is how Abduls argue. And they said, you talk too much, but that's my job. I said, you accuse me of twisting Trent. So do you have evidence? Okay? And then they claimed I deleted their comment. This freaking comment. They claimed that I deleted this comment. It's still there. They claimed I deleted that comment. Right? And then I mentioned Pius the 12th. Right? And then I gave them the link to their comment. Let's continue. Okay. I even made screen captures of it. I actually made screen captures of it because I thought it was such an interesting comment. So, and then you started talking about vestments and liturgy. No, I was not talking about vestments and liturgy. Right? And they said this is what I was responding to. They weren't responding to my actual issue about how SSPX and Bishop Lefebvre, the anti-Semite Jew-hating Bishop Lefebvre and his friends are actually outside of the Catholic Church and also violating the magisterial authority that these people claim to be defending and upholding. These people claim to be the hypocrites that are upholding and defending magisterial authority and the authority of the church by claiming that the church has no authority and that they've got to go to some guy who is outside of the church, who is claiming his own authority, who is disconnected. And this is on the basis of a pre-Vatican II decree, which is interesting. Okay? So now I would love this person to actually... What is Godfrey saying here? Lloyd is taking things if he thinks the fathers at Trent had the Novus Ordo vestments and Mass in mind. I don't know who this person is, but actually, hold on. Let me. I have no idea who Godfrey is at all. That is fascinating. So let's go back here. That is really, really fascinating. Godfrey. So because I'm a little bit annoyed and because that's a stupid comment, Godfrey, you've just lost all further rights to comment on this channel. Have a nice day. Okay, on that point, right? So that's that. There was some other comments that I removed because I've got Catholics saying that the Catechism is wrong, the Pope is wrong, that so everything post Vatican II is wrong, but everything pre Vatican II is apparently also wrong. So yeah, whatever. Okay. So understand, I can go at length into this, but yeah, I think this is enough, right? Just to talk about this. As I said, according to Pius XII, the thing that that Bishop Lefebvre did is lacking legitimate jurisdiction. Their sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious. People are defending it on the basis of they don't like it, right? That you have to understand why he did it. So yeah, but anyway, these are my thoughts. This is my annoyance that I needed to discuss here. Yeah, the Diamond Brothers, there was one guy that came on that was like defending the Diamond Brothers. I mean, like, they stole $1 million from someone. There's a whole story around that. That's fascinating, right? And refused to give it back. So anyway, you're very welcome, Manifort, and everyone else. Let me just see. Yeah, so there were multiple masses before the Latin Mass. So by the logic of people who are defending the TLM over the Novus Ordo, then the TLM is also illegitimate, utilizing exactly the same logic, right? But also there are some severe issues, as far as I can determine, within the SSPX. Right? There are some definite issues here. So those are my thoughts. That's everything from me. Are there any questions before I go? So also this foolish person. Now hold on, they come back. This person actually comes back. This Coral and Honey, okay, And I've been asking, are you going to demonstrate how I twisted Trent and deceived people? Okay. And then, of course, they were like, is quo primum from Trent? That's not relevant to this. Okay. And yeah. So anyway, I've noticed. So Mephistopheles, please speak English. Okay. Understand, I have very little patience. I don't have much patience with idiots, honestly. So anyway, but notice this person, whoever they are, you're a liar. Okay. And you claimed that I was deceiving Catholics. You claimed that I twisted Trent. If you are unable to demonstrate how, then like those Catholics that claimed that I was a liar and smeared me and lied about me, Catholics that some of you know and some are actually admins on other channels who lied about me and claimed that I was lying when the Catholic Church states that Catholics worship the same God as Muslims, when they said that that is not the case. But I quoted 4 popes and I quoted the magisterium 20 or 30 times, different statements on that point. I was told I was a liar. Those good Catholics lied about me, smeared me, and so on. I haven't yet had an apology from them. So this is, Catholics will do this too. Very upsetting. So anyway, yeah, I guess, yeah. So that's it from me. Any final thoughts before I go? Do you think Catholics can attend SSPX masses? I mean, it's physically possible to walk in the door, I guess. I mean, should you? That's another question. Okay. Um, so yeah, thanks Neil D. Thank you. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, it's just wrong. I find it wrong that Catholics are undermining the church. Catholics are smearing and slandering the Pope, undermining the church, and then claiming that at this in the same breath that everyone needs to become a Catholic, which is really a bad look. When you spend so much time smearing the Catholic Church, smearing the magisterium, and then undermining the church, slandering the church, and then saying the Catholic Church is the only true church, you need to join them. It's really insane. And going against, okay, and then going against everything that the magisterium teaches. Roseanne Rossi, I will until I'm convinced it's wrong. So, well, I mean, if Pius XII said that bishops appointed without the mandate of the Apostolic See lack legitimate jurisdiction, right, and their sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious, who do I believe? You, Roseanne, or do I believe the Pope? Do I believe Pius XII is correct? Or do I, on your personal view, believe that Pius XII is wrong? So who has more authority here? And then SSPX priests don't smear. Roseanne, that is absolutely, positively not true. SSPX priests, like the man who founded the SSPX, have been saying the nastiest things about the Catholic Church since they founded the organization. For instance, they called Pope John Paul II, as I said earlier, they called him satanic. So John Paul II was satanic. The Catholic Church was teaching heresy. The Pope is teaching heresy. Yes, the SSPX does smear, is smearing, has smeared. So yeah. Now, the Council of Trent very clearly and very definitively shows us that the position of the SSPX is anathema. That under the Council of Trent rules and their catechism, the SSPX is schismatic. It is wrong. It is teaching falsehood. It is not authentically Catholic by any stretch of the imagination. Council of Trent is prior to Vatican II. So in the 1600s, everyone tells me, no, you've got to go to the Council of Trent. So I went to the Council of Trent, and it says that Bishop Lefebvre is teaching bullshit. Right? So Roseanne, please, show me how the Pope saying that these people are wrong does not prove that they're wrong. Right? Honestly, I mean, seriously, I'd love to know. Right? I'd love to know, because then it's going to be, well, you see, based on the Novus Ordinium Titanium Philosophinum, the Lefebvre actually utilized the suboptimaltanium nomimium, and therefore actually it's acceptable what he did because it had good reason. Whereas the priests were whatever. Okay, this is so. SSPX don't smear. The SSPX do smear. I've read enough smears. They've spread smears. They utilized smearing, just like Martin Luther used smearing of the Catholic Church. The Church is corrupt. The popes are corrupt. The popes are heretical. The popes are satanic. They pulled a Martin Luther, 100% pulled a Martin Luther, smeared the Church to justify their position. What they did was no different to what Martin Luther did. They were slandering. They were smearing. It's that simple. Right? I know this because I can read, right? So Roseanne, please explain to me how the Pope explicitly saying that what Lefebvre did is lacking legitimate jurisdiction and that his sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious. Why do I believe you? How is this not evidence that you are wrong and that Lefebvre was wrong? How is that not evidence? What do I believe? Are you operating on a feeling, a personal feeling, right? I discussed that earlier, strongly held beliefs. Okay? Your sacred cow, is that a strongly held belief? Because that is not the position of the magisterium, that is not the position of the popes, even pre-Vatican II, right? Lefebvre acted out of necessity. So, okay, look, Roseanne, I don't want to know that you like beach balls, you like sunshine, you like roses, you like Kennedy Hall. That's not what I'm asking. That is not what I'm asking you. You made a claim. Please, I'd like you to answer the claim. I want you to actually answer the claim. Support your claim with some kind of legitimate answer. Defend it with facts, with evidence. Okay? So Lefebvre acted out of necessity. So did Martin Luther, Dr. Jonathan Gemmell. Martin Luther acted out of necessity. You know why? Because the church was corrupt. The church was evil, which is exactly what Lefebvre said. There's no difference between the statements. Their statements, he pulled a Martin Luther on that one. The church is corrupt, they've gone wrong, and I'm acting out of necessity. So even though he acted out of necessity, that's a claim. That's an assertion. So, okay, right. So I guess I'm not going to get an answer, right? I guess I'm not. So, yeah. So it's that simple. I mean, I think we're seeing here, okay? The popes have spoken. The magisterial proclamation of Trent, we can read it. And it states very bluntly that what Lefebvre did and what the SSPX did is out of bounds, takes them out of the church. And Roseanne, you still haven't answered my question. You are deflecting. It's exactly what I wrote here. It's exactly what I wrote about here. You are deflecting. You are not answering my question. You are not giving me an explicit answer to my questions. You've made a claim. Now, I want you to explain to me exactly how the Pope is wrong and the Catechism of Trent is wrong. I'd like to know. Okay? So now you could say, well, he acted out of necessity. That doesn't fly. Theologically, doctrinally, in terms of the Catholic Church, that does not fly. Okay? You could personally say, well, I did it out of necessity, whatever you want to do. So Roseanne, you have to read more. So in other words, you have no answer. In other words, this is your personal feeling. It's feelings. Those are feelings. Those are not facts. That's not evidence. That's having an opinion with one that you can't defend. So, yeah, I believe that Jupiter is an enemy planet. I believe that chocolate is an illegitimate ice cream flavor. I believe that pineapple on pizza is great. So we can believe a lot of things, right? There's what we believe and there's what is fact. The popes, now ask yourself, Dr. Jonathan Gemmell, the popes have said illegitimate, sacrilegious, and criminal, lacking legitimate jurisdiction. So, do you go with your popes? Do you go with the guy who was lacking legitimate jurisdiction and whose sacramental acts are illicit, criminal, and sacrilegious? Simple. Honestly, simple. Yes or no. Then you're either following canon law or you are outside of canon law. You're either in the Catholic Church or outside the Catholic Church. Understand? So you need to decide here, because the popes And the Council of Trent is saying that this guy is wrong. That's who you're going to go with, because feelings. Understand? Because, yeah. So Bishop Lefebvre hated Jews, just like Martin Luther hated Jews. He says he acted out of necessity because that's what Martin Luther said. He said that the church was corrupt. That's what Martin Luther says. So I have no idea about the NO locking you out. I have no idea about that. So anywho, so guys, I'll leave it at that, right? And I'm gonna have a few people I need to ban because they're bullshit artists and they're willing to lie to me and call me a liar without any way of backing up their statements, right? Now, of course, the Council of Trent was in the 1680s. I think it lasted four years or something, late 1670s to the 1680s, something in that period, right? And yeah, well, you don't have to go back to the Novus Ordo, I guess, if you can go to the Latin Mass, but the Latin Mass is not the original Mass either. According to the claims that I'm hearing constantly that the Novus Ordo is illegitimate, the Pope can't change it. Well, the Pope changed from another Mass to the Latin Mass. So that means that the Latin Mass is an illegitimate Mass. So someone's talking bullshit to me. Someone is lying to me. Someone is lying to someone here, right? And yeah, so look, they are bad Catholics. They are lying Catholics. I am sick of that, okay? I'm not going to listen to Catholics. I'm going to listen to the magisterium. I'm going to read the magisterial documents. I'm going to research the papal statements. I'm going to follow those, right? And Catholics that refuse to do that, how Catholic are you? Catholics that refuse to be obedient to the church, how faithful are you to the church? Honestly, how Catholic are you? So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's it from me. Thank you all, and I will be on later. And yeah, there's a lot of whack job Christians out there too. So as I've discovered while discussing these issues. So it is wrong to touch the Eucharist, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness going on. So guys, take care. Catch you later.